Hey guys, how's it going? I'm here bringing you another EX Plus analysis video. Don't forget that in the video's description you can find a playlist of my previous EX Plus analysis videos and a playlist of my tier list videos starting from January 2020. Today we're gonna be talking about Gilgamesh and Exdeath from Final Fantasy V, who are both getting their EX Plus tomorrow during Exdeath's initial release. I'll be starting off this analysis with Gilgamesh and then move to the featured character itself, which is Exdeath. I'm going to go over their strengths and weaknesses as well as which artifacts you should be aiming for, and finally, if they are worth investing and how much you should invest in them. In the end, I will be adding a new should you pull part for those indecisive people, giving you my recommendation if you should pull or not. Before we begin, I want to remind you that these are just my opinions and you should always do some research on your own before deciding on things, and hopefully this video will help you on that. So let's get this analysis started. Gilgamesh on his initial release was not really a unit that can fill a specific role in your team, and that didn't change afterwards when he got his EX weapon during his Lost chapter. Yes, he got a rework, but most of his problems were still there, especially since it was during a time that he had to compete with units like Noctis, Pain or Vayne to be in a team. Tomorrow he's finally getting his EX realization, and I cannot say that fixes a lot of his problems. One of his weaknesses in the past was his bad longevity due to low skill count, but he's now able to mitigate that thanks to his EX Plus restoring one use of his Wild Dance whenever you use it. Speaking of his EX, it now hits like a truck loaded with explosives compared to that bad aftertaste feeling you had when you were using it in the past. It is actually very comparable to Gallup's EX, even though that one doesn't delay your target. Gilgamesh is an extremely versatile unit that brings numerous things to the table: gravity shaving, delay on his EX, a low chance to paralyze, reducing the attack of all enemies with an aura, and inflicting melee resist down, which is very rare. That said, the things he provides can be considered somewhat lackluster, and what do I mean by this? Well, his paralyze is on a low chance, his melee debuff is just for one turn, meaning Gilgamesh will likely not take advantage of his own debuff before it disappears, a debuff which is inflicted by his really bad HP attack. He also inflicts a 3-turn speed down debuff with his Brave Plus, which you will likely never use. One of Gilgamesh's initial problems is still there, which is his low hit count on his skills, meaning he needs batteries to take full value out of his skills. Something he can somewhat do with his amazing bravery gen, which is around 11k per turn. Gilgamesh is able to boost his own damage through the roof with his big man on the big breach frame buff and his generic buffs, so really, like I said earlier, all he needs is someone to battery him or to increase his initial brave further. Recommended artifacts for Gilgamesh are 108 attack and 330 max brave, with his Way of the Hero boost being a consolation prize. Now let's see if he's worth investing in or not. If Gilgamesh is one of your favorite characters, then you should definitely invest in him. If he does not, however, hold any emotional value to you, then there are more things to consider. Ask yourselves, based on what we've learned about Gilgamesh so far, why would you bring him in any stage over any other unit? What does he bring to the table that makes him stand out from the other physical damage units in the game? His 1-turn melee resist down debuff that you gotta sacrifice a turn with his bad HP plus to inflict? Don't we already have other units that boost the party's damage with their unique debuffs? Unfortunately, we have many strong units with even stronger ones on their way, and Gilgamesh is not one of them. Now let's see how much you should invest in Gilgamesh if you decide to do so. Giving a book to Gilgamesh makes the brave hits on his EX become AoE. It gains 150% overflow, and it also recovers one use of his Wild Dance. A very strong book upgrade. Having his brave hits become AoE, I think is more than enough to make his EX relevant if you wish to place him in a Dimensions End stage. Investing 1 ingot in him gives him the permanent attack and max brave boost. Boring. If you invest 2 ingots in Gilgamesh, it allows his EX to extend his Big Man on the Big Breach buff by 2 turns, and also grants him the Gilgamesh of Honor buff for 5 turns. Keep in mind that the names of these buffs will most likely change in the global version. The Gilgamesh of Honor buff raises his initial Brave and Max Overflow limit while also granting him the Brave Regen effect we mentioned earlier. As a big bonus, Gilgamesh starts the stage with his attack and max Brave buffs and 4 stacks of his Big Man on the Big Breach buff, which allows him to take it to 5 stacks with 1 skill only. Amazing upgrade for 2 ingots, but if you have decided to build Gilgamesh, you cannot stop here. Finally, giving him 3 ingots raises the total Brave potency on his EX and raises it even further when attacking a single enemy. The Brave hits on his EX are increased from 3 to 9, and it now deals 50% splash HP damage. This makes Gilgamesh EX one of the best shaving options in the game in my opinion, because thanks to his Big Man buff, this skill can effectively deal 90k brave damage to each target. In conclusion, I don't think there is any doubt that if you want to invest in your Gilgamesh, then anything else besides 3 out of 3 is a big mistake for this big man. Otherwise, a book is just enough to get your ingot and use him in a lower Dimensions End stage. Now let's finally move to Exdeath. The Evil Tree arrives to Final Fantasy Opera Omnia and with him brings a very unique gameplay. What do I mean by that? Exdeath is incapable of breaking the enemy unless you are using his Brave Plus attack. What he does instead with each one of his skills is reduce the enemy's Brave while raising his own at the same time based on his attack value. Attack is the most important stat for Exdeath because all of his gravity effect shaving uses that instead of a fixed potency. Exdeath has a total of 15 skills and no way for him to use free skills or recover skill uses, so that means you need to be mindful on when you use his few skills. Thankfully, his HP++ is actually strong, being able to drain over 20k brave from your target without caring about defenses or resistances. That's something which is true for all of Exdeath's skills. This unit does not care about how high your enemy's defenses are or if they are resistant to magic. Exdeath inflicts 3 unique debuffs on the enemies. The first is called Sprout of Darkness and it's a brave poison type debuff that can go up to 3 stacks. The second is called Curse and it reduces the enemy's attack, defense and speed, while also having an HP poison effect similar to the recent Phoenix boss. The last debuff, called Power of Not, is inflicted by Exdeath's EX skill when the enemy has 3 stacks of Sprout of Darkness, and it's a 1-turn debuff that reduces all HP damage done by the enemy to 0, and it reduces the enemy's Brave down to 0 when their turn is over. A very powerful debuff in my opinion. I'm sure many of you already watched how Exdeath performs in his Chaos event. You need to remember that his synergy there. His damage can be average without the right conditions. Note that the HP poison effect from Exdeath's Curse debuff is unable to kill an enemy. So let's see if Exdeath is worth investing in or not. Exdeath is your cookie cutter magic DPS with his twist of not able to break enemies, but instead bypasses resistances and defenses to deal true damage with his gravity type shaving. You can turn his inability to break enemies into an advantage by pairing him with units that can benefit from breaking enemies, like King, Jekt, Aranea, or Lightning in the very near future. But is he any better than other magic units currently in the game? Papalimo and Ultimecia get lots of free turns, while Emperor's traps deal way more damage than Exdeath's HP poison. But I think the deciding point is how slow his EX is, especially since you want to use HP plus as much as possible to not burn through his few skills, which doesn't help with his recharge rate. In conclusion, I don't think Exdeath brings something noteworthy to the table to make him stand out, so unless he's a favorite character, I would advise against spending your resources on him. If you decide to invest in Exdeath, then stick with me and let's find out together how much you should invest in him. Investing a book in Exdeath moderately increases the brave reduction on his enemies and the brave gain based on his attack, while allowing it to overflow up to 120% of his max brave. It also slightly increases the party battery, which comes naturally with his EX. The 1 ingot upgrade is your usual attack and max brave permanent boost, pretty basic. If you decide to invest 2 ingots in Exdeath, it makes his EX grant him the Mystic of the Tree buff, which has a brave and an HP regen effect. Furthermore, it allows him to start the stage with that buff, and also his Manifestation of Evil buff, which increases his attack and max brave. Finally, it also inflicts 1 stack of Sprout of Darkness to each enemy at the start of each wave. That is a pretty hefty upgrade, but Exdeath is a damage dealer, and you know what that means. You gotta go for that 3 ingot investment if you want to use him. The 3 ingots upgrade tremendously increases the brave reduction on his enemies and the brave gain on his attack, while also giving it more overflow. It also slightly increases the party battery from his EX, and last but not least, it unlocks his brave and HP plus attacks. This looks very similar to the 1 ingot upgrade, but the damage difference between them is very big. In conclusion, if you want to use Exdeath in chaos stages regularly, then you need to take him all the way. Otherwise, I would just take him as base EX to a Dimensions End stage and call it a day. Using a book on him for a bit more damage boost and a free ingot is up to you. After everything we've said about both Gilgamesh and Exdeath, what do you think? Should you pull for either or both of them? Let me know in the comments below. What I would suggest is skipping the banner and save your resources. For this one, I won't even do my usual 50 tickets because we still haven't seen how Exdeath turns out once he gets his ELD in the JP version, so I would rather wait and see if the developers can raise this unit to greatness. If you are a new player, then please resist the urge to pull on everything and wait for a better banner. And that was it. I hope you stuck with me until the end and that you enjoyed watching or listening to this video. Personally, I am enjoying doing this video more than just uploading my chaos runs, since nowadays almost every stage is just too easy with the units we have. I wanna hear what you guys think though. Don't forget to like the video and also consider subscribing if you like my content. Take care guys, stay inside your houses, and I'll see you in my next video tomorrow. See ya!